Um, in all my life, I was raised in church. So my testimony is a little bit different. It's not going to hear about a drug addict or cheated on my wife or anything like that. But I was raised in church. I mean, my mom and dad really grew up in the church. They don't remember not being in church. And most of the time, I didn't really want to be there when I was growing up as a child. You know, church is something to do. It's kind of boring to the kids, you know. It was to me too. I was raised in a little Presbyterian church. I've done all the Bible schools, the Sunday schools, the church camps, did every bit of it. Perfect church kid, you might say. My mom and dad were real good moral people, and really I was a pretty good kid. I never got into any alcohol, any drugs, mainly because I love my dad so much. He's just like my best friend that I didn't want to break his heart. You know, I didn't want to get caught doing things because I knew my dad would find out about it and hurt his feelings, you might say. So, you know, and I can remember going to camps and they'd bring people in and they would have these awesome testimonies about how they were drug addicts and God saved them. And honestly, I sit there a lot of times and wish I had a testimony like that. I can remember thinking, I wish I could get up there and tell people that, man, I was this way and then God changed me. Just always wish that way. But about the age of about 10 or 12, somewhere in there, we were at a church camp and I remember, you know, we had the little worship service, and after it was over, I remember the youth pastor got up there and he basically said, now young people, he said, listen, you know, ministers talk to you tonight, and you know, you're sinners. We're all sinners, and that you're going to hell. And you know, what you got to do, you got to ask Jesus in your heart. Would anybody want to do that today? And one of my best friends there, his name was Brent. He felt like he needed to go down front. And I looked at him, and I honestly, I can remember the exact moment. I had cold chills and everything. I just knew that, man, I need to do that. I had never done that, and I need to do that. So I went right down there with Brent. About 4 or 5 of us went down there, and I remember him exactly saying, you know, what you got to do, if you want Jesus to come in your heart and change you, you got to believe that he died on the cross and that he died for you. And honestly, I believed everything the guy said. In my mind, I believed it with no problems with anything. Matter of fact, what I believe today about that is really hasn't changed. I still believe that Christ died for me that very day at 9, 10, 12 years old. I remember leaving that night and even having little cold chills, thinking, you know, that was pretty cool, man. I'm saved now, man. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I felt really good about it. I had no problems at all. And I remember the next week in church, we had changed churches. We were at Lone Oak First Baptist Church, and I remember Willis Henson was there, and you know, I went down front after the service and told them what had happened to me at youth camp and got baptized that Sunday night. Man, I felt good, man. I was telling my grandmother and told everybody about it. It was a wonderful experience. The only problem was that I really didn't feel any different after that. Everything was about the same. I still went to church every week, and I didn't really get excited. And half the time, I can remember so many Sunday evenings, me and my dad would be out in the garden, and I would be looking at my clock thinking, I'm not going to tell him what time it is, because if I just hold out a little bit longer, he'll forget, and we won't have to go to church tonight. And, man, it'd just be great, and we wouldn't have to go to church on Sunday nights. Anyway, all those years went by. 18, went off to college for close to 7 years. During the college years, first 2 years didn't go to church hardly at all. The 4 or 5 years of college in Atlanta, I actually went to a big church, real big church, probably 10,000 people. And I thought, man, now this is church. I'd been to a small Presbyterian church. I've been to Lone Oak Baptist Church when it was a little more, no exciting worship music. And now this church was the church, man. This was a fun place to be. And they had every activity you can imagine. They had every kind of organization. I thought, what have I missed all these years? Exciting. Got real involved, you know. And so now on the weekends, a little different. Friday and Saturday nights was, of course, fun night. You know, we could go out in the Atlanta town, have a good time. Anyway, let's see, I guess it was 1998, I graduated chiropractic school. In June and July, I got married. I I bought a practice. I bought a house. I went way in debt, way down in debt. And to a man, that is like something you got to get rid of. I had a lot of pressure on me. And I'd planned out everything in my life. I'd planned it out. I wanted to have a kid after we were married 3 years, and she got pregnant on the honeymoon. And so that didn't work out real well for me. And so about 2 years into practice, I had a practice larger than I ever expected. I was making more money than I ever expected. I was having a lot more, boats and trucks and stuff, everything I thought that I really wanted in life. And I was a miserable person, absolutely miserable. And I had no understanding of why I was miserable, because I had attained everything I'd ever tried to do. I wanted a basketball scholarship. I got that. Everything I'd ever put my heart and set out to do, I did it. And I was miserable, completely miserable. And so for the next 2 years, I tried everything I could do to make myself happy. I worked 5 days a week, and on Saturday about half a day. And after that, I'd go hunting and fishing, because I love to do that. Every holiday, I'd hunt and fish. Tried everything I do to make myself feel good. Anything that would just make me feel better about life. Because what had really happened was I felt trapped. I had a wife, and we dated for 9 years, and it really wasn't that I didn't love her. I did love her. I had a boy, and I loved him more than anything. But I did find out I loved one thing more than my wife and my child, and it was myself. I absolutely loved myself. And I had to please myself, and that was my problem. I found that until I set my whole life out just to please myself. And so that set up a 2-year problem. My uncle took me over to the boat over here, across the bridge, the money-saving bridge, they call it. And I spent 2 years, 3 nights a week gambling over at the boat. And that was the only thing that would give me just a little bit of good feeling. Like, man, break away from the stress. I can go over and have a good time. 2 years went by. Utterly miserable. I was one of the most miserable people, but you would have never known it. Because in my practice, I'd play Christian music. I'd pray with my staff. And went to church. I was teaching men's studies. Matter of fact, during that period of time, I signed up for more things at church than I ever did. Because I just knew that would make me feel better. If I just get more into church, that would help me out. But you know what? It didn't. I was just more miserable. It was the worst time of my entire life. Developed heart problems, digestive trouble, all kinds of stuff was coming my way, and I was a miserable wreck. Thought about suicide all the time. Because my pride was so strong that I knew if I didn't really like my wife. I loved her, but I felt trapped, I just needed to get everything out of my life. And I just really wanted her to leave, and she wouldn't. And I thought, she'll leave me, then everybody will look at me and say, why would you leave that man right there? And I'd say, I don't know why she left either. But I know that sounds crazy, but it was just, I loved myself. I needed a way out. And so, again, this went on for a few years. And finally, after, thinking all kinds of suicidal thoughts, brother-in-law, he helped me out, took all my guns. We had a long talk one night. He took my guns, and I thought, well, that'll help me out too. Now I can't do that. Just still miserable. Well, anyway, long story short, I'll cut it kind of short. He's wanting to speed me up a bit.